Return of the Mount Hua Sect. Chapter 262. No, what is with those bastards? Hyunjong pressed his forehead as if it was in pain, and then he opened his eyes and yelled, "Can't you raise your hands straight?" Chongmyung gently raised the arm he had been discreetly lowering. Sadly, Chongmyung was being punished at the moment and was being made to kneel in the corner of the guest house with his arms raised. "Yeah, you bastard! You're the one who couldn't hold back and made this happen." "No, it is because those idiots cursed Manhua. Still." Hyunjong grabbed the back of his neck and tried to relax when Hyunyoung came and helped him. "Are you alright, sect leader?" My life seems to be shortening." Hyunsang looked at Hyunjong with a worried expression, but Hyunyoung, who was watching it from the side, had a sad face. "Your vitality must have increased a lot after you took the pill, so it is fine if it reduces a bit. Rather, do you want to starve the child? Even if you want to punish him, at least feed him right. Chongmyung, get up and eat." But Hyunjong yelled, "I am punishing him right now." Suddenly, Hyunjong flinched and stopped. It was because Hyunyoung was looking at him with blood-red eyes. Is he going to eat me?" "Sect leader." "Huh?" Hyunjong responded with a trembling tone. "Did you forget? The sect was running out of food. Do you still have the memories of us hunting wild animals and digging up food on the mountain with the other children?" Yes, I haven't forgotten it." "Do you know what kind of decision I made when I'm on Hua, which I was proud of, had nothing to eat when we were forced to dig things up?" Well, Hyunyoung spoke with clenched teeth.
"I promised myself that when we earn enough money to feed them, I promised myself that we'd never starve our children no matter how much money it costs."
Yes. Hyunyoung, who loosened his clenched teeth, looked back and smiled at Chongmyung.
"Chongmyung, let's go and eat. Come."
"Yes." Chongmyung jumped up and ran to the table full of meat. Seeing that, Hyunjong touched his forehead in pain. "What sin did I do in my previous life? Why is such a person my saje and another one like that my disciple?" Taking a deep breath, Hyunjong slowly turned his head and looked at Hyunyoung and Chongmyung. "Right. Well, it was such a hard time." It was then.
"Elder, can I get some drinks?" Yes. Eat whatever you want. And if you're going to eat only the best stuff." Good, my brat."
Hyunjong closed his eyes tightly as he heard those voices. He covered his ears, but he could still hear everything. I should cut off my ears. Seeing this sight, he felt like the vitality he had increased in his body because of the pill was steadily reducing. Hyunjong observed everyone with a stiff face, and he looked at one of them. Seeing him with his purple lips and tears in his eyes, Hyunjong had nothing to say. "I apologize."
No."
Cho Mal-seng, who was beaten by Chongmyung, spoke with a humble face, and the other man with the horse face spoke with a bitter smile. "Don't worry, sect leader. On the days we meet a strong sect, isn't it normal to have our necks chopped off for talking bad about them? We are thankful it ended like this."
Still,
I'm sure my friend must have learned something from this. I always thought that one day the harsh things he said would come back to bite him back. Moonpyong, the horse-faced man, glanced at Cho Mal-seng. He too had nothing to say and just pouted. Moonpyong clicked his tongue. Right, I knew something like this would happen at some point. Above all, Kangho was a place where everyone had to be careful with their words. Those who spoke recklessly would get their necks handed to them. Since Mount Hua was a place that was known to be righteous and acclaimed as a Taoist sect, the result of the entire fiasco was just this. If they had met some other man, they would have been killed right away. But the surprising thing was, Moonpyong slowly looked to another direction. He looked at Chongmyung sitting at the table and drinking alcohol. "Mount Hua's divine dragon. He had heard the rumors, but he never expected it to be like this. Actually, Cho Mal-seng, who was sitting next to him, was quite strong despite his rabid mouth. But even he got his ass handed to him. A surprise attack? No. There was nothing uglier than saying it was a surprise attack. And when living in a world where there were warriors all around you, it was basic knowledge to be ready at all times. Since Cho Ma-seng wasn't a person who didn't know that, it could only mean that his skills were too low in comparison to the young man. The power of Mount Hua is more than what I heard. Maybe Mount Hua would bring a storm upon this competition. It isn't just Mount Hua's divine dragon. He looked at all the disciples of Mount Hua who were eating meat next to Chongmyung. Server, bring more meat! Dumplings too! Alcohol too! When Baekhyun looked at the disciples with wide eyes, the Baek disciples who had asked for alcohol bowed their heads. There has to be someone who knows how to hold back. Sorry, don't be. The disciples then continued devouring the food. Moonpyong smiled. This is different from the Mount Hua that I imagined. When he came to Mount Hua, what he imagined was a sect comprised of swordsmen with great pride in their sword, but weaker Taoists when compared to the Wudang sect. But the Mount Hua he was seeing now,
They're like bandits.
Right, you... Shut it! Cho Ma-seng, who said it, pouted and went silent. Right, they really do look like bandits. If they changed their robes, they would look like real bandits who had come to rob this place. If it weren't for the plum blossom engraved on their swords, Moonpyong would have doubted if they were really from Mount Hua. Moonpyong coughed and politely approached Hyunjong. Then you are participating in the Worldly Mudim competition. Yes, we sent that child to order the food in advance for us, but for something like this to happen during that short time, I have no excuses. When Hyunjong said he didn't know what to do, Moonpyong thought, this man is naive. He doesn't fit the position he has. If he was a true sect leader, he would have asked Cho Ma-seng to apologize for ignoring his sect. Instead of rewarding Mount Hua's divine dragon who had condemned them, he punished him. And he looked really apologetic to them as well. A sect leader very much unlike the disciples. Moonpyong glanced at the disciples and smiled. This is a completely different combination. I wonder what this sect will look like. And he lowered his posture. Sect leader, although we committed a wrong, I want to apologize for the trouble we did. I apologize on behalf of this man too, so please understand us. In a place where there is none, how can you say you have committed a mistake? You are speaking your mind, and that is no sin. Regardless of where you are when I curse you, wouldn't it be natural for me to be killed? Moonpyong smiled. In Gangho, we are often called a horse-mouse twin. We are quite quick to hear about things around here, so let us know what you need regarding the spars in the competition. Please consider this our way of paying off our sins. We will do it wholeheartedly. I would greatly appreciate it. Moonpyong smiled brightly and said, Then, if you allow it, we will now leave. You weren't staying. No, we just stopped by. Actually, they had been planning to stay here, but they didn't want to do it now. When Moonpyong glanced back, Cho Ma-seng sighed and got up. I really apologize again, sect leader. No, it is really fine. We will make sure to repay this favor. Cho Ma-seng took a deep breath and turned around with an awkward face and followed after Moonpyong. When the situation was finally settled, Hyunjong sighed and looked back at the elders. I am worried. What do you mean? We are already apologizing. I wonder if I can have free time in Mount Song. Hearing this, Hyunjong laughed.
What can we do if he keeps doing this?
Hyunjong's face softened a little.
It is said when a weak person causes an accident, it will be called an accident. But when a powerful person does something like this, it is called the law. And what did they say? Wasn't what they said too arrogant? Leave it alone. After we die, our disciples will be the ones leading Mount Hua. It isn't a bad thing to bow down.
You're asking me to leave all this to Chongmyung. At Hyunjong's words, Hyunjong turned around and looked at Chongmyung. Chongmyung was stabbing Jogul with his chopsticks, aiming for his meat.
I do think he should be restrained a bit.
Okay, I am worried. So worried. Contrary to Hyunjong's concerns, the remainder of the journey went smoothly. Of course, Chongmyung did something absurd in the middle, but thanks to Baekchun and Hyunjong, the situations were handled well. A few days passed. The disciples of Mount Hua finally arrived at the foot of Mount Song.
Oh, Mount Song!
Each of the disciples looked at it in admiration. Although it alone was a famous place, Mount Song was worthy of being called the most famous mountain in Gangho. The reason was simple. It was because the Shaolin sect was located here. 1,000 years Shaolin. The Buddhist sect called the Shaolin sect, which was located in the Shaoxi peak of Mount Song, had many strong people. It was natural for everyone to be filled with excitement as they came to visit the Shaolin sect on their own ground.
Can you feel something from the mountain?
All mountains are the same. What else can they look like?
No, but still, it feels different from Mount Hua.
If Mount Hua was lofty and high, this looked soft and gentle. It was as though everything was warm and embracing. That alone was enough to give the disciples of Mount Hua a different feeling. Furthermore,
why are there so many people?
They don't seem like warriors. The road to Shaoxi Peak was filled with a sea of people with incense burners in their hands. There also seemed to be quite a few merchants present here as well. For the disciples who had always been accustomed to the silent path, this was different. Seeing all this, Yunjong asked, "Elder, does Mount Song normally have so many visitors?" Well, it is my first time coming here too. The elders had done nothing special in Mount Hua either. They lived for the sake of the disciples. Realizing the status of the Shaolin sect once again, the elders felt suffocated. It was then.
It isn't usually like this. It is probably because of the competition that so many people have come.
Is that so? Yunjong looked back at Chongmyung, who answered, "How do you know that?"
I lived as a beggar here once.
Why come here when you can get nothing from mountains?
I came here to eat.
Chongmyung looked at the people going up and said,
"This should have been happening in Mount Hua in the past."
The low voice he said it in pierced the hearts of the disciples. Baekchun, who was calm, said, "Sect leader, after this competition is done, will Mount Hua become this crowded?" Hyunjong smiled brightly.
"Of course it will be." "Yes, then..."
Chongmyung said it out.
"Let's go and take a look at how great these elite sects are."
The elders nodded their heads at the same time, and a thought flashed through their minds. Of course, it was the first time they would properly see a prestigious sect. But it is the first time for them too. For them to go against people like Chongmyung. Thinking about it, the elders felt bad again. "Let's go."
Yes!
The disciples of Mount Hua started to climb up Mount Song with determined eyes.
The Shaolin sect.
Chongmyung, who was following behind, smiled.
The competition you wanted to conduct is already over. This is going to be a competition exclusively for Mount Hua to show off. Because I will make it that way.